This is BL Through the Years. Welcome to Yahi University.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Truly.
Okay, so introductions. My name is Mel. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the yapper of all time. I read Kaz Teino Uta at a very impressionable age, if anybody knows what that is. Thank you.
I'm Emerald. I go by she, her. Pastel is just my brand. I love pastels. My first exposure to gay people in anime was Sailor Moon. I watched like a movie that my cousin was watching, and I had no idea what was going on, and I was confused, but I enjoyed it.
I will say a quick disclaimer. We're not going to be talking about anything like super in specifics, but a lot of the series, especially some of the older works, definitely do come with heavy content warnings if you get curious after the fact and want to look into them. Cannot recommend them responsibly without a list of content warnings.
Yeah, but there's nothing like graphic inherently in this.
This is very safe for work informational kind of vibes. Also, we gotta set the stage. So prior to the 1970s, shoujo manga was very overly simplistic and exclusively targeted towards like younger children. During the 1970s, though, a group of mangaka that have retroactively been called the Year 24 group revolutionized shoujo manga by tackling more serious themes and complex stories and expanded on the genres present within shoujo. And this does include exploration of gender and sexuality. And I do also want to add, this isn't to say like depictions of gay men and their relationships didn't exist in media in Japan prior to this. There was a bit of like a shift away from normalizing that during Westernization in the Meiji era, kind of pushing gay relationships into subtext, if it were to say in media. And you did have like underground indie manga that could get away with it depicting things, even though it was technically illegal. So they didn't create gay people, but this is when I guess it became a little bit more accessible and kind of became the yaoi genre that we know. This panel is not an end-all be-all of BL. We're only highlighting a few things. There's way too many BL to talk about it all in an hour.
Absolutely. We just hit the high points of each decade.
Yeah, so starting strong, in 1970, the first ever BL, official BL, is Sunroom Night, or In the Sunroom, by Keiko Takemiya. And Takemiya wanted to focus on male characters and their relationships, but shoujo was for the girlies, and at that time very, very restrictive. If anyone knows anything about Japanese culture, female sexuality, boo, illegal, not allowed. She was very inspired by shonen manga and art and literature about men in love, and she cooked up this plot and characters that would later turn into Kaz Teino Uta, but was not being cleared to be published. So she condensed it and allegedly lied to her editor about what all was going to be in it, added a female character to make it easier to publish, and we got the first BL, and we love that for her. Following not too long after that, in 1974, we get The Heart of Thomas by Moto Hagio. One of the big takeaways of this that she said that I think is kind of very, if you don't know where BL started from, this pretty much tells you. But her whole take on it was that boys in shoujo manga are at their core girls wishing to become boys, and if they were boys, wanting to do this or that, and being a boy is what girls admire. So this work was very gender fuckery for that. Love that for her. It focuses more on spiritual love and homosexuality and girls' culture, and it's very much influenced a lot of shoujo art things that come up a lot, and just visual tropes. And it wasn't popular at first, but did start to gain traction as it went on, and it was inspired by In the Sunroom, so they all kind of build upon each other in these earlier years. Also, the art is just really pretty.
Shoujo aesthetic is S tier.
She was mothering here with this. Next, in wrapping up the 70s, we have Kaz Teino Uta, which published in 1976, or when it started. It was originally first seen as a Heart of Thomas copycat, which I thought was kind of funny, It really solidified Shonen AI like as a thing that was happening and not just like a one-off story here and there. It also inspired Berserk and possibly Utena. That one's not confirmed as far as I could tell, but there are connections. Its depiction of sex contributed to BL manga and bringing sexuality to traditional publishing, because prior to this, there for a while it wasn't really something that was super allowed. It was very influenced by an actor. If you guys know like the Beautiful Boy tragedy, I think his name is like Bjorn Anderson or something like that. Very influenced by that. The blonde boy, if you can see, is basically just that. Another fun thing is during this era, censorship on heterosexual sex was like you couldn't really show it, but based on the wording in the laws, there was kind of a loophole. You could show gay sex if you didn't ask first. And Takamiya wanted to write sex, so it had to be gay. And one thing about this series is very like, to modern standards, Twitter standards, very controversial, because it does depict on like themes of CSA and hypersexuality as a trauma response and things like that. And one thing that I thought was interesting is that Takamiya really wanted to like portray these things, because this is things that people do go through, and ignoring it in media is not going to make it go away in real life, was kind of her thought process with writing this story. And now we move on to the 80s.
Okay, I had to let Mel cook with that one. They kind of covered the 70s on that one. So Banana Fish, for those of you that don't know, the story takes place in New York City in the 1980s. Ash Lynx, who is the beautiful boy we see with blonde hair, is the leader of a gang there trying to uncover the mysteries surrounding a new drug that is plaguing the city called Banana Fish. Ash meets Eiji, which is the boy over there with the black hair, a Japanese photographer in New York there to experience America for the first time, and to help Shuichi, who's a reporter, to report on the street gangs that are there. The two go through a series of investigations to uncover conspiracies tied to the drug Banana Fish. This is a masterpiece. I absolutely love this. I haven't read the manga. I watched the anime whenever it came out. It was absolutely incredible, and if you haven't seen it, please watch it. It's absolutely beautiful. This was serialized in Bisatu shoujo comic. It was a shoujo manga, which that should be noted, from May 1985 to April of 1994, I'm so sorry. Over 12 million copies of Banana Fish are in circulation as of 2018, so that means there is significantly more in circulation now. And also a fun fact about this, influenced by the 1969 film Midnight Cowboy, the relationship between a con man and a male hustler changed Akemi Yoshida's brain chemistry entirely, who's the creator, and she saw that and she said, I have to do something with that, and then she cooked Banana Fish up. So
Ready to go to the next one?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Our next one is I Know Kusabi, which started publishing in December of 1986. I've read that this one subverts the Sime Uke trope, and both of the men are like the alpha type. It's a futuristic dystopian world ruled by supercomputer cyborgs, created by I cannot read my notes, by supercomputers, and are given roles based on their hair color and rule over humans. And the premise for the romance is that a freaky cyborg keeps a human pet, and it's kind of taboo. The story does explore like social exclusion and caste systems, while also showing the pet falling for the master, so it's like kind of Stockholm Syndrome. Few series at the time showcased real gay sex and not the angst and shoujo style romance that had typically been seen previously. So this was kind of groundbreaking for the time and a little more freaky than the rest, and we love that for them.
We do, and we do. So next up we have Earthan. I don't know if anyone is familiar with this at all. I had heard of this, but I had never read or consumed anything about it. So Earthan, in the world of Earthan, angels watch over humans, scoring their day-to-day actions, good or bad. Angels are disgusted by humans and their treatment of Earth. So if humans' total negative marks reach 10,000, the Earth will be destroyed. Chihaya is an orphaned angel who loves humans, is paired with the very handsome and well-liked angel who despises them, Kagetsuya. Chihaya is the positive, while Kagetsuya is the negative. Through their excursions to Earth, the two fall in love despite being gay being forbidden in their home, which is Eden. It looks really pretty. I never consumed anything, but it looks really fun. Creator Yoon Koga also created Loveless, for those of you that are somewhat familiar and know what I'm talking about. There are 4 OVAs that have been made at 45 minutes each. There's 4 manga volumes, and it was serialized in Shinshokan Wings magazine from 1988 to 1994.
In the later half of the 80s, in 1989, you get Zetsui, 1989. At this time, BL wasn't super officially recognized as a genre outside of those who created within it. And I think it is worth noting that during this era, a lot of like BL and yaoi works were more like indie and doujin, think like Clamp before they became Clamp. This was considered one of the major works and one of the first to go international, which was pretty cool. It solidified the angst, violent, with little sex and melodrama that the genre becomes known for, and was originally a spin-off of a Dokusen Yoku, a Captain Tsubasa doujin, pairing Kojiro, Hyuga, and Ken Wakashimazu, and a ship comparable in popularity to the scope of Kirk and Spock from Star Trek. So it was a pretty big deal. It's basically like a rock star plus soccer player romance, and it was really cool. I think it's interesting it was the first to go international.
Yeah.
Because I don't hear about this very often.
No. Yes. You guys are familiar with this.
Going from the 80s into the 90s, we do see a lot more anime OVAs of older BL works. And did you write anything about Pug?
Yeah, I did.
You got
I
it.
did. Say it. Say it. The anime. Right
The
there.
1982 anime.
Oh, no, I could have read it.
Patario. I need to
Yeah,
read
yeah,
it,
yeah,
because
yeah,
otherwise
yeah.
I'll call it
Okay.
Petrolio.
Okay, so there's the characters over there in the far right corner with the purple curtain over there. Featured the first gay boys in anime, which were Bonkaran and Mariach, which one could argue inspired other anime to follow suit by including their own gay boys in BL as well. It was the first to depict shonen ai themes. Also during this time, which Mel just mentioned, a lot of the BL during this time were OVAs, just due to the lack of material. So they were just working with what they had, and there weren't like full length 12 episode anything like that. It was usually like 3 or 4 like episode OVAs.
It was also a lot easier to do more risque content in OVAs versus like a TV anime.
Yeah, they would put in crazy shit in there. Anyways, but yeah, just wanted to touch on that, and there's some like really nice ones that are in here if you guys haven't seen them.
Going into the 90s, Moto Hagio hits us again with something that makes me think she needs a wellness check. A Cruel God Reigns. The base premise of it is that a kid kills his abusive stepdad, and then his stepbrother falls in love with him, but not before the kid goes on a self-destructive trauma journey and hopes to cope. It's described as the adult version of The Heart of Thomas because it has similar plots and themes, and its depictions of male-on-male sexual violence mirror the violence against women, where feminine readers are supposed to identify with the abused male character in a way that somewhat separates them from the violence, but also something they could relate to and I guess process it if they needed to. It's inspired by a book she read about child abuse and how people carry that trauma as they age. And it's very much a I hope your abuser dies vibes. But a lot of the early yaoi was very like trauma core, and she was putting in the work.
And those themes carry through like even now, even
They
the shows
do.
that we see now. Okay, so next we have Kazuna, Bonds of Love. First of all, the picture of them laying down, so domestic. I love them. So Kazuna is the story of Kei and Joji, who ultimately falls in love with Ranmaru Samajima, who's a kendo prodigy. And Joji finds out that he's the son of a Yakuza boss, which, despite its negative connotation, ends up being the very thing that pushes them to fall in love with each other, due to all of the trials that they go through that accompany that. It looks super cute, and it was also created in '92, which was the year I was born. So
Thanks for bringing us to us, Emerald.
Of course. So there were 3 OVAs, and there was a drama CD in 1998, and it was published in magazine B-Boy in 1992.
Nice.
Continue.
So, breaking the ouch part of the yaoi, we have Gravitation in 1996, or starting in March of 1996. It's notable for its comedy and tonal departure from the trauma core melodrama that yaoi kind of had the connotation of being. It's had a precursor doujin called Help. It's basically the same story, but different characters, kind of. Gravitation sold 500,000 copies in North America between 2003 and 2007, and in 2025 it was the top manga on Bookscan with BL themes, so it was pretty popular, especially in the US. It uses fragmented panels to depict sexual intimacy instead of innuendo plus coded visuals that had been used before for a non-explicit exploration of sexuality. And it's basically, for those who are not familiar, music boy with big dreams, ex romance writer plus biggest hater, because he didn't like the boy's music at first.
Very cute.
But this was one of the ones that based from Emerald's childhood, was very popular in the US and kind of helped jumpstart the BL enjoyers over here.
Yeah, this was one of the first. I think this was the first BL that I ever watched, and I
Love
remember
that
watching it. It changed my brain. Okay, so next we have Suki Show. I remember watching this too whenever it came out. It's based off of visual novels. So there's several of them, but there was one short 12-episode anime that came out in January of 2005. It's about this high schooler, Sora, who's the one with the purple hair, who was hospitalized after falling out of the window of his high school. From the 4th story, and because of his accident, he can't remember his past. He can only remember pieces of it. One night, Sunao, which is the boy with the pink hair, sneaks into Sora's room, getting on top of him, and instead of calling him by his name, he refers to him as Yoru and himself as Ran. Come to find out that both of the boys have alternate personalities. Yoru and Ran will take over the boys seemingly at random times, which put Sora and Sunao in embarrassing situations. I remember the anime being wholesome. I have not watched this in a very long time. 20 years. So I remember watching it, and it seemed cute. I also love Sora's hair color. But currently there are 4 visual novels, which are they're not explicit to my understanding, but they're very not safe for work. There are 14 light novels, and the games came out from 1999 to 2004. And I did mention earlier there was 1 season of 12 episodes as well as 1 OVA to exist of this.
So in 2002, Janjoica hit the earth. It's that classic 2000s yaoi with the yaoi hands and all. It was the first BL on New York Times manga bestseller list when it debuted. And anime 4th best-selling debut. The anime was the 4th best-selling debut DVD for anime in 2008. It focuses on 3 mostly unrelated relationships and uses classic tropes, unfortunately, like rape, which is there's a lot into that, and the female fantasy and how it can how a lot of times female sexuality is not really allowed. You can't be something that the girlies want, so you have to present it in a way where they're not actually wanting it, which is where that trope comes from. Big time into the Sime Uke dynamics and tropes like that, and it perfectly encapsulates what outsiders said BL was in the late 2000s to early 2010s. If the girlies were fighting on Tumblr about BL being problematic, they were talking about this.
That's the truth. Okay, so we've got Loveless that came out in May of 2002. Okay, so we, whenever the manga came out, when did the anime come out? Not long after, I don't think.
Not long after.
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, Loveless is about Ritsuka, who's the boy on the front with the black hair. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hear you.
Who meets Sobi, which is the man with the blonde hair. Sobi is a friend of Ritsuka's older brother, Seimei, who was murdered 2 years prior. With the help of Sobi, Ritsuka discovers Sobi and his brother took part in battles, which were spell battles. The pair uncover Seimei's hidden past and the reason he was murdered. There are currently 13 volumes for the manga, and the creator, Yun Koga, planned for the manga to end at volume 15. Volume 13 last came out in June of 2018.
That shit was still introducing new characters and plot lines.
Yeah, and there is currently no ending for this. I don't think there's been any like talk of it ending. There's only one single season of an anime that was created with 12 episodes. This was serialized in monthly comic Zero Sum in May of 2002.
This was the first BL I'd ever experienced when I was 13 years old. On mangareader.net, if anyone remembers that place.
Mangareader.net, let's go. The goat. Coming
into the 2010s, we do have to mention Yahi Jesus, the obligatory dramatic moment. We love Yahi Jesus! For those who don't know, it's basically just like a dating sim visual novel game. Very iconic amongst BL yaoi lovers, especially 2010s and onward. The anime was not good.
No. Play the game.
game. The only thing on my notes is just Yahi Jesus for this one.
That's not a joke at all. I'm looking at it.
She is. But that is the Yahi Jesus meme and where it comes from. I'm pretty sure most
for
people
anyone
in this
that didn't
room
know, yeah, that's where it comes from.
It needed to be mentioned.
So we've got Given. I know that this one is very popular. I personally don't care for it.
Your hot takes.
But Given is about Ritsuka Ueyama, who is in a band. Ritsuka meets shy classmate Mafuyu Sato. Ritsuka teaches Mafuyu to play guitar, and in the process learns that Mafuyu can sing quite well. Ritsuka asks him to join his band. The story addresses topics like grief and self-esteem, with Mafuyu having lost his previous boyfriend to suicide. As the pair play together in the band, they grow closer as their friendship begins to blossom for one another. I know that this was a very big deal whenever it came out. Like, people were like, oh wow, this is actually like really good, and it's touching on topics of grief and not just like dumping trauma on everybody. So I think this is good in that aspect. It's just not personally one of my favorites. It was serialized in Dear Plus under Cherry Plus in April of 2013. It aired on Fuji TV's Noi Tamina blog, and it was actually the first BL to air there on that blog. So that was pretty cool.
Another Tumblr favorite was 10 Count. It started in July of 2013. The basic premise is that it's OCD, misophobia boy, ex-therapist. There's sadomasochism, and I don't actually know if that's how therapy works. The therapist loves triggering the boy's OCD, and the boy with OCD does love being triggered, so freak for freak, and we love that for them. But through this relationship, the boy with OCD, he does become more comfortable with intimacy and just existing in the world around him. It was 2015's number one national bookstores of the top recommended BL in 2015, and it was the third place for best manga in Sugoi, Japan in 2017. And the yaoi girlies were speaking very highly of this back in the day.
I remember hearing about this one.
I've heard a lot about this one.
And we have one of my favorites. This is disgusting. It's so precious. So we have Sasuki and Miyano. I'm sure everyone in this room knows what this is about. So it's about these two boys. They begin as friends. So you have Yoshikazu Miyano, who's a Fundashi Danshi, holy crap. Okay, if you guys don't know what it is, it's just a male version of Fujoshi. That keeps his hobby of reading BL to himself. Shumei Sasaki has a reputation of being a delinquent, while his personality can be quite apathetic towards his friends and his family. Both boys are very kind, thoughtful, and friendly with one another, which leads their friendship to the next level, which is boyfriends. They're absolutely adorable. This show is so precious to watch. It is just pure tooth-rotting goodness if you've never seen it. It was serialized in monthly Comic Gene since March of 2019. The manga has over 2.3 million copies in circulation as of 2025. Still hasn't beaten Banana Fish. When I personally saw, this was whenever I personally saw the BL movement start to become more mainstream and more popular. That's just me personally. It was probably a little bit before. I know Given definitely gave it some traction. But now even just like people that aren't really into like BL or really even like anime and stuff, like they know what Sasuke Miyano is. Like it's like a romance. Like people be like, oh yeah, I know what that is.
It breached containment.
Yeah, truly.
So next is Yuri on Ice.
One more is
This is in the similar boat of Banana Fish, where you could argue technically it's not a yaoi, but it's basically a yaoi and had a very big impact on BL and especially the community around BL. The anime aired in the fall season of 2016, and it did change lives. And if you guys, I don't know how many people on here were like Tumblr girlies, gender neutral, during this era, but there was a BL pipeline from Yuri on Ice into Killing Stalking, and we all just, it was a wild time to live.
The pipeline is straight.
The pipeline was crazy.
I definitely did follow that pipeline.
Yeah, you get it.
Absolutely.
Following Yuri on Ice.
Okay, a lot of people, I'm going to make a disclaimer. I am aware of the fact that the creator does not consider this a BL. I'm beating everyone to the punch by saying that. The creator, Kugi, has said multiple times that it is not a BL and that they consider it a psychological thriller or psychological horror.
It can be both, though, and it is both.
It absolutely can, and it is. So, but just to let you know, I am aware of that. So it tells the story of a very mentally unwell man, Bum. He has a crush on a man named Sangwoo who saved Bum from an assault attempt. One day, Bum goes to Sangwoo's house, entering and going straight for the basement, and Bum sees a victim tied up, allowing Bum to connect the pieces that Sangwoo is a serial killer. Bum then becomes Sangwoo's new victim by abusing him in horrible, awful ways. I have never consumed this, but any person that tells me, it's like, oh my gosh, you have to read it.
It is good.
So good. And I'm
it is really good.
You don't make a strong selling point. Nothing sounds nice, especially when my favorite on the list so far is Sasaki Miyano.
Don't do it. It's very...
I heard it hurts very bad. I know it is, I would say arguably it's the most popular BL manhwa. I would probably say it's arguably up there. It won the 100 million won grand prize award at second Linsen World Comics Contest. It was first published on Linsen Comics in Korea in November of 2016. It was like on Webtoons. So that's how Killing Stalking came to
I
be.
would say, at least from my experience in like anime and BL fandom, that this was probably like the gateway for a lot of people to expand out of Japanese BL specifically
Absolutely.
into more non-Japanese media as
Absolutely.
well.
Yeah, that definitely made me a slave of this. They're a constant training in my world.
Absolutely.
One thing that does need to be mentioned and also follows this is MXTX web novels, Scum Villain, Murazushi, Have an Official's Blessing. This was the start of the Danmei boom. I credit this to the 2010s. Thank you, gay Chinese web novels. They were doing the Lord's work, truly. And these were really popular on Tumblr. I think Murazushi got an anime in the late 2010s.
Yeah.
And that's when it really started to pick up.
I remember whenever seeing these, and I had no idea what it was, and then I was like, why do all of them look similar in
they're
different
pretty.
clothing?
Because they're really pretty.
I was very confused. but they all look very pretty. That's
They did.
all, yeah. That's all.
It needed to be mentioned, but we'll talk more about Danmei when we get to the 2020s.
Everybody's
Fujo
favorite.
Bait,
We've all been here.
the gateway into yaoi
We've all
for
been
teenagers
here.
on Tumblr.
We've all been here. I guarantee you, most of you people have seen at least one of these shows on here.
How many people thought Free was a BL?
Everybody. A lot of people. Has anybody seen Free in this room? Okay. Did anybody think that it was BL when you first started? Let's go. Okay.
Yep.
Free.
The gay swimming anime?
The gay swimming anime, yeah. Because I definitely did.
Right. That is a very homoerotic scene in Beastars.
what they
There's
were
no
doing.
other
They knew
explanation.
what they were
Fujo Bait was very much the vibe of the time. I remember being a teenager in high school saying, I love yaoi, and I was just talking about Fujo Bait.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be so
truly.
real.
I remember loving it all, so.
I didn't know there was a difference. Going into the 2020s, quote-unquote modern BL, we have Yahi no Uta, which started in August of 2020. This has really pretty art, and it looks so cute. It's a fantasy series following a chosen one, Elva, who fulfills his duty and is cursed with a body that doesn't grow, and he is basically in isolation. And then there's this other boy, Alto, who seeks to free Elva and reaches out, and he vows to stay by Elva's side forever. And they live like a family, and it's really cute and domestic. It's pretty new, so I couldn't find a lot about it, like popularity-wise.
It was actually recently published by Sunroom Night.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
It's actually in Barcelona.
Okay.
heck yeah, I need to go to the
It
bookstore
looks
more
very
often.
pretty.
It currently ranks 419 on my anime list in top manga out of 68,000
That's pretty
manga,
good.
so that sounds
Pretty
pretty
decent.
good to
It's
me.
pretty up there.
It's
Actually, not Sublime, Tokyo Pop.
Okay.
Tokyo Pop?
Yeah, there's a love label that they have.
Okay.
I'm gonna
Okay,
have to
cool.
look for that because this looks really good. So it is only 2025. We're very much halfway through the decade, and it is hard to say what will be influential from the 2020s. New manga still being made, and the BL community has very much expanded past things like Loveless and all the other things on this list. English-speaking BL fans no longer look mostly at Japanese media because we are multicultural gays now.
And we are.
We love to see it.
Like I see a lot more manhwa. I see
A
a lot,
lot.
and then even people that you don't even have to buy anything anymore. You can just use webtoons and you just read gay shit on there all the time.
You were buying things to begin with?
Not really.
Were you
So we
talking
have-
about the Danmei boom or was I?
It doesn't matter. We can do
Okay.
both. The Danmei boom.
The
I know
Danmei
it was-
boom. Everyone
it
thanks
blew up.
7Cs for publishing all of the Danmei.
Yeah, I know everyone. Everyone is reading some sort of Danmei at this point,
Yes.
except for me.
Danmei comes with slightly different tropes and different vibes. I know a lot of them take place in like cultivation worlds, which is very new for people who haven't consumed a lot of Chinese media, at least for me. And when it comes to BL, it's very new settings, which adds like new dynamics and new twists on old tropes and dynamics. And all the boys are really, really pretty and very feminine in their design. We're going back to the boys being girlies with Danmei. Do you have anything to add?
They're pretty. They're very pretty.
They are.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was talking
Manhwa and
about.
webcomics are
That's
definitely
exactly
where
what
it's
I was
at
talking
now.
about.
We went to BL panels at AWA, and it was
Yeah.
all manhwas.
It was-
such a good time.
It was insane because I remember whenever BL was just referred to as it was just like anime essentially, or it was just, and it was super niche, and there was only like a handful of them. And now it's just manhwa and webcomics and Danmei, and it's everything. And I didn't recognize anything, so it's crazy. It's nice to see that there's just branching out, and you're seeing different cultures and different dynamics. It's very interesting and fun.
It is. Congratulations on graduating Yaoi University.
Yay.